Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the UCPS Policy Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, and I'd like to begin by calling this meeting to order, starting with the approval of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next up is approval of open session meeting minutes from August 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is policies for second review.
Okay, the first one that you have is policy 1-12, public participation at board meetings. This one was at the last board meeting for first review on August 3rd. Since that meeting, and I think it was that night, I noticed that there needed to be a conforming change, and I forwarded it all to you, the policy committee, the next day, and it's how it's uploaded. And the specific change is that paragraph 4 on page 2 needed to be struck through to conform to the change being made in paragraph 2. And that's the only change since it was last at the policy committee, and I've not received any comments from any stakeholder groups regarding this policy.
And Michelle, because of the change, does this go back as for second review, or does this have to go back again?
It can go for second review to the board. We frequently make changes between meetings, and it still goes for approval at the board meeting, as long as y'all are okay with it.
Todd, do you want to do them individually, or do you want to do the whole group for second review?
Let's do the whole group. It may be a little quicker.
That's awesome. Thanks.
So any questions on policy 1-12?
I just want to confirm with Michelle that we no longer have to, if there's a waiting list, we automatically do the 60 minutes instead of making the board vote every month.
That's what this policy will provide for. Now, if you want to approve this one like we did before public comments so that you can implement it, we can add it to the agenda that way.
Yes.
Just let us know.
And
Okay.
if we did that, we could, or we're going to go back and modify Union County residents only at the top if we do it first.
Then you'll be able to prioritize. What we can do is we'll create a list both ways. And if this passes at the meeting, then you'll use that list. Otherwise, you'll use the other list, however the board decides.
Very good.
Any other discussion?
No.
Moving on to B, policy 2-19.
Okay, there have been no revisions to this draft since the last policy committee meeting, and I've not received any comments from any stakeholder groups.
Okay, so I'm good with the way that it was written or revised from the beginning. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
And we did discuss with respect to the purchase orders and contracts, when we're increasing it to 10,000 for the principals, that we would get an FYI about all the purchases and contracts that were there, correct?
And Sean is going to do her best. That's a hefty load, and she said if you're really concerned about, she's fine to go back to the 5,000. However you all want to proceed.
I just would like for a monthly report to be at the bottom of board docs with some of the FYI, so that the board can just be aware of what's been approved each month. Just FYI.
That's fine. Michelle, you and I may need to talk to Shauna because we're in the middle of our conversion in our financial system. So I want to make sure that while we're running parallel systems, what would be the earliest month she could begin processing those? So I don't want to promise that it could be delivered in 2 weeks for the September meeting.
Sure.
Let us check with her and on the timeline when she can implement that.
It doesn't go into effect until the September 7th meeting anyways.
Gotcha.
You're fine with that.
Yep.
Okay,
That's good.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm good with 2-19.
I looked at that too.
Okay.
Moving on to C, policy 3-2A, employee code of ethics and standard of conduct.
There's been no revisions to this draft since our last policy committee meeting. So that's for your review again. And again, like the other staff would recommend this go to the board at the next meeting.
Can we go back? Sean is saying that it will be way too much work to put together a schedule every month of what we're doing because our system doesn't do that yet. So like Dr. Houlihan said, it's going to be difficult.
Okay, so we only have 53 principals. We only have 53 schools. I don't see what the big deal is that there can't be a simple Word doc, just like the donations each month that just list what schools got that each month. I mean, it's as simple as the donations list.
Yeah, I just don't know how our financial system keeps the track of all of that. So let us check with her.
Can you investigate that and let us know at the board meeting on the 7th, please? Or before then by email would be great.
Because I would assume not all 53 principals
Would have an expense.
are doing that monthly. So it seems like a simple list, no more difficult than the donations list that we get every month.
Yeah, I know that when a donation report comes in, Michelle keeps track of that manually. And so with our finances, that's all done electronically. So I just need to ask her how the financial system can provide that report. So we'll be glad to let this committee and the board know how to make that happen or what the challenges will be.
Okay, thank you.
If it can't be public, then is this request premature? Are we asking too soon if the system is not prepared to handle this request, or is this policy coming too soon?
Well, the other thing that Ms. McLam and I did talk about is it's just leaving it back at the $5,000 limit and not change it to $10,000. She would be fine with that as well. So if the committee wants to take this policy and just leave it at the $5,000 limit, we can just do that and not worry about the reporting. It's up to however the committee would like to proceed.
I mean, if we can't manually just put 1, 2, 3 on who asked for that each month, then I don't think we're prepared to move forward.
Okay, why don't we table it till next policy next month? And we can get some information from Shauna and try to understand what's going on and stuff like that. Would that be good?
Sure.
Okay.
And would you like me to bring it back for first? I'll bring it back for first
Well, wait
review.
a minute. Wait. Can we, okay, we need to take care of the change order stuff. Can we delete this change for now and come back to it next? Oh, God. We keep
Keep it at the 5,000 and the change we'll bring back to first
Can we
review.
do that, Melissa? Are you good with that? Can we leave it at the 5,000 in that paragraph, but the above one changes so that?
Well, I assumed it was 5,000 until this change got approved.
It
It's
is,
always
but
been
what
5,000.
I'm asking to not make the change in the paragraph with respect to the 5,000 and 10,000. So leave it alone, but make the other changes in this policy 2-19. So instead of holding up all the changes in 2-19, we can do the ones that we want and not do the one in the third paragraph. And we can look at that in its isolated self next time, but let's make the changes other places on this policy. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Okay.
So what you're asking me to do is in the paragraph, the second paragraph under A, is that say that principals and department heads may enter into contracts in amounts up to 5,000. Leave it that way.
No, I don't want any changes to that paragraph at all.
Okay, so the policy exists, and the policy exists at 5,000. So why can't they?
That's what I'm saying.
Why are we saying that this is holding up change orders if the existing policy already says 5,000? Why can't
we're saying the same thing. I want to make all the other changes on 2-19 and leave the second paragraph of A the way it was. No changes. That's what you're saying too, right? Don't make any changes to the $5,000 paragraph, but make the other changes.
Paragraph A, right?
In the second paragraph of A will remain the same. It
Yes.
won't change.
So are you asking to make this approval today, Kathy, and then bring it back next month to change it to 10,000?
No, I'm asking that we approve it today without the changes to that second paragraph with respect to the 5 and 10,000, and go to the second review to the board on 2-19. And if we want to discuss the $5 and $10,000 again, after we learn more information about why we can't get the information, we could bring it back just for that paragraph if we wanted to, next policy meetings. But I would like to get this done without changes to the paragraph with regarding the 5,000.
And you're referring, and so you said second paragraph from
Of
the
A.
top, or are you saying the second paragraph from A?
Of A.
Okay.
Are we good with that?
If they're saying they can't write a list every week, then I guess that's what we have to do.
Well, I can look into it some more, but and have a conversation with Shauna. So, okay. So
I'm going to leave that second paragraph as originally written
originally,
with no
Okay.
strikeouts, no changes. And this is on your, okay. And then it'll go for,
second review.
okay,
So do you need a separate motion for that?
no,
Okay.
no, because we've made it revisions.
Okay.
And are we going to bring it back automatically next month for first to look at the change to go to 10?
I think
or
we
no?
have to get some more information from Dr. Houlihan and
Okay.
Mrs. McLam, and we'll see from there. Okay.
Okay.
If they can't provide the list, then that may change the members' minds. So
So basically, it may not come back next month.
correct.
It
It may
just
not.
whenever they feel like they can write a list.
Correct. Okay.
And they can do it. I may just be, since we're starting school, and I don't know, but
Don't know.
I
Okay.
think they can do it. They just got a lot going on.
Okay. Let's go.
All right, we touched on C 3-2A. Any further discussion on policy 3-2A?
My stance still stays the same from last meeting.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
All right,
Okay.
moving to D, policy 4-8, child abuse and related threats to a child.
Yeah, there's been no revision to this draft since the last policy committee meeting. And staff would ask that this go for approval at the next meeting.
Any discussion?
No comments.
I'm good too. Next, E, policy 4-11, student wellness.
There's been no revisions to this since the last policy committee meeting, and staff would ask that this go to the board for
No
approval at the
comments.
next. Okay.
Melissa, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, going to F, policy 5-3, counseling.
Same as the prior ones, no revisions, and we'd ask that it go for approval.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion.
Moving to G, policy 6-5, formerly 4-10, law enforcement involvement on campus.
That again is the same as the others. There's been no revisions, and we'd ask that it go for approval at the next meeting.
Okay, any discussion?
No discussion.
Hearing none, we'll go to policies for first review, starting with policy 2-3, formerly 250, settlement of claims.
I'm sorry, do we want a motion for the first set of
You wanna do
policies?
those first? Okay,
I move that we send the policies in section 2A through G to the full board for second review. And I
Second.
also request that policy 1-12 get approved prior to public comments.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I hear we've got a vote of 3-1, correct? Reverend
No.
Kirkpatrick, you voted against or you were for?
I'm against.
So 3-1. Moving to policies, first review. First up, policy 2-3, settlement of claims.
Yes, this was returned to first review at the request of the committee after the last meeting. there was a question about a paragraph that's all in red on page 3 of 4. I compared that with the paragraph that's struck through on page 2 of 4. It is the same. It was just moved. But we will, it was struck through and moved, but it was for organizational purposes, but we'll handle this however the board would like us to do so. So this is for first review.
Any discussion?
So it does look like on the second page and the third page, there were a lot of additions to the existing. Did these recommendations come from the state or?
They came from the proposed policy by the School Boards Association.
So it came from Raleigh or?
Yeah, from the
Okay.
North Carolina School Boards Association.
So basically the state, I guess. Okay. Yes, a lot of changes. Okay. I'm good.
Any other discussion?
No.
I'm good.
And Michelle, just to go back to policies for first review, Reverend Kirkpatrick, we did not get affirmative. Are you disputing all the policies, or do we need to do those one-on-one since?
Well, that's
did
the issue. The issue is because we did it as a group, I think.
Right. So do we need to go back and vote on individual policies to be clear?
It's up to Reverend Kirkpatrick. I mean, he can stay as a nay for the way it's gone through. They'll still, because the 3 of you voted, they'll still go on the consent agenda.
Right.
And then he can vote at that meeting, or ask any one of them to be pulled, but it's up to you all if you want to go back and do
Reverend
individual.
Kirkpatrick, what's your pleasure? You want to go back and vote individually, or you good with the way it?
I mean, it's fine. I think it's pretty certain on which one, so there's no need to go through all of that.
Okay.
Like I said, yeah, my views hadn't changed from the last meeting, so.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to B 5-4, extracurricular activities and interscholastic athletes.
Okay, I apologize. I hope you all saw the most recent version that I sent to you all, and it's the version that's on board docs. I did send out some revisions yesterday. The proposed revisions to this policy are for clarification of how the board and administration have always interpreted this policy. And it seems to have been unclear. And so we just wanted to make sure that our boosters, our schools, and everybody understood the expectation of the board for participation.
So this addresses only middle school sports. Is if there is a middle school athlete that, for example, wants to do wrestling, but their middle school does not have wrestling, then they can provide their own transportation to and from the other Union County Public School team that does have wrestling. But they would have to provide their own transportation for events and
They would at least need to
competition.
provide their transportation to the school where the rest of the team is.
Okay.
But this is only for middle school because obviously the High School Athletic Association governs the ability of students from one school to participate in another school. And this then just clarifies that our activities are for students that are enrolled in the school for the, if I'm at Monroe Middle, I can participate in Monroe Middle sports
Okay.
and
So
extracurriculars.
So I definitely like the clarification, Union County Public Schools, meaning that they have to be enrolled with us. Because I
No
think,
homeschool, no charter school, correct?
That's always been the board's position up to date. So that's why we were clarifying, because there seems to have been some confusion.
because I
And Michelle,
think
does a student have to go to their cluster school? So a Piedmont Middle cannot go to a Marvin Ridge High School, say for wrestling?
It would be if Piedmont, let's use wrestling. If Piedmont Middle did not have a wrestling team, we would
They
look at what other schools had wrestling. So if Parkwood has wrestling and there's space on the team, then that Piedmont baby would be able to go over to Parkwood to wrestle. Middle
Middle
Yeah,
school
'cause
only, middle
yeah, you
school
can
to
only
middle
go
school.
at the same level.
Oh, okay.
if there was no space at Parkwood, we'd look at Sun Valley, we'd look at Forest Hill or East Union, we'd look
Yeah,
at other schools, but it would be
Yeah.
where there's space and where they have a team.
And they
And they
have
would
to be
have
in
to
public
try
school.
out.
They'd have to try out whatever the expectations are for players on that team.
If there's
And-
space.
Yep. And yes, Reverend Correct, they would have to be a Union County Public School student.
I've got some emails from parents about a letter that went out from, I think, central office around this, and from what I gather, I haven't seen the letter, but what I gather, it states just the opposite of what we're saying here. Are you aware of that letter, or have you seen it?
I'm not. There was some concern about whether you had to be a Union County Public School student to participate in extracurricular activities and athletics. And we have said the position is that they do. I'm not aware of a letter. There may have been, if it's
There
confusion.
was email about a charter school student who wanted to play at sports at our school that we don't allow.
Yeah, I think there were 4 or 5 students at a local charter school that had been practicing at Parkwood Middle, and the coach realized that those charter school students cannot play on that team.
Any
So we
other
would ask-
discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I like the way it's written.
I agree. I think it's only fair that when I say our students, Union County Public Schools students, if they're enrolled in our schools, and they should play for our schools. And I think I agree with Miss Melissa. I like the way it's worded.
Yeah, I do too. And and I've gotten some phone calls too, and I'll just let the committee know that, there are requirements for Union County Public School students, like discipline, attendance, tardies, grades. And if they're not enrolled in Union County Public Schools, we have no way to track their grades, their discipline, their attendance, tardies, anything. So I definitely like the way it's written.
Michelle, do you know anything about if we flip the coin the other way, say a Union County middle school student does not have wrestling, say at Piedmont, but Union Academy does, would they be allowed to play for Union Academy?
I don't know their rules. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Just interesting.
And
Any other questions?
I appreciate the compliments. Miss Heintel helped me fix that verbiage. So thank you to Mrs. Heintel for her help.
Moving to C, 6-2, formerly 4-21, parent organizations.
And as with the prior policy, the proposed revision is to clarify the expectation that our parent organizations are there to support our students and not students of other schools, with the exception of events that are open to the full public, like a fall festival. Obviously, we wouldn't say if you don't go to our school, you can't come to a fall festival. But this is more for teams, for extracurricular activities, for clubs, those sort of things that our students are the recipients of our parent organizations.
And Michelle, just for clarity, I mean, we as a board or as a school, we do not govern these organizations. We get a lot of calls about booster clubs and PTOs. At what point would we get involved?
All of our parent organizations are a separate 501c3. They're a separate not-for-profit entity. They do get benefits from the district. They get to use our facilities and our fields without charge. They get to use our logos, our colors. So they have a different relationship than a traditional, than another non-for-profit, than the United Way would have with the district. So they are expected to follow our policies to continue to be that official organization of the school, to be able to use our fields for free, to be able to be a Monroe Red Hawk, those kinds of things. And so we have in this policy, it kind of outlines the extent of our our involvement and our oversight, which is very limited. The main right that the board has is to remove them as the official parent organization if they don't follow the mission, vision, policies of the board and the administration.
And I know it says in here, we're able to request copies or look at their financials at any time. Does this committee think it is a good plan, good idea to,
If they don't.
I personally do, to look at that, make it a mandatory, we look at that once a, not to audit their financials, but to actually see where they're at, see their standing, see their bank account. I guess with silence, I get my answer. All right, and then the very last bullet point, where it talks about they're not to enter into any contracts. Who monitors that? Because I've gotten wind that some of these organizations are entering into contracts and buying lights for their fields, and
They can enter into a contract in their name. For example, I'm going to keep using Monroe. I apologize. The Monroe High School athletic boosters could purchase lights in their own name with their own loans and whatever to place on the Monroe field. They can't
But
enter a contract as the Board of Education. So they
but I guess
could,
where I have a problem with that, they're buying lights to put on property that we own.
yes, and the lights cannot be the collateral. They have to be fully responsible for whatever cost. And so
And at what
It's-
point do we get in and make sure the lights are safe or up to par or up
We-
to our standards? To
we have to
make
work
sure-
with the facilities department.
We approve the vendor, we do all that stuff. It's a change to the facilities. It has to go through facilities and they oversee it. And once they become, so let's say Monroe puts lights on the softball field, that we now own it and we have to replace it in 10 year, 15, whatever the life is, the light. We are responsible for it from that from that moment on. Okay, I have a
So once-
question.
So
But-
once an organization pays for it and they donate it to the school
So
is
anything
responsible
that's
for
put
keeping
on,
it up.
anything that's put on our property, we have to keep up. That's why if you'll see sometimes facilities will come back and say, oh, you want to build a lot of Eagle Scout things, like you want to build a bench, but it has to be made of certain kind of lumber because we don't want to be having to keep it up and things like that. Now, stuff that already exists, it exists, and that's fine. But you'll see stuff like that. We do oversee all of that stuff because it does become our stuff. So there you go. I have a question.
Artificial turf is another one too, Kathy. So like
Yes.
artificial turf on a football field, we've had a lot of community members offer to donate that. The problem is when that artificial turf expires, then we're responsible to have the millions of dollars to replace it. Because
Exactly.
so when the life cycle ends and that donor it is long gone, then it becomes our responsibility to maintain and replace.
Exactly. And that's fairly well known that when they get loans, they can't use the equipment for collateral because it's our property at that point in time. So that's the issue. And that's up to the booster clubs to decide whether or not that they can do that. They can take on that debt and pay for that debt. So I have a question though, with respect to 6-2 and the as such, only students enrolled in the district are eligible to participate in the activities of a parent organization. That is still okay. Let's say that we partner up schools and students from our other schools are coming to other schools to do Read With You and all those kind of things. Okay, so we're good because that's part of a parent-teacher organization that would be getting the volunteers together.
That's why we put students enrolled in the district. So
That's what I
it allows
thought. I
cross.
just want to clarify it. Thank you. Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to take policy 2-3, 5-4, 6-2 to the full board. when is our September 7th, I believe is our next board meeting, September 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Our next board meeting or our next policy meeting is September 22nd at 9 a.m. And I'm assuming it will probably be Zoom again, if that's okay with this committee. I think it's easier for everybody to get there. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
All
Second.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
Have a good
all.